You worked in, executive positions in the World Bank and IMF. Could you tell us what is the difference between the World Bank and IMF?
Yes, yes. See, the World Bank, as the name says, is a bank, and with the different agencies, the original part is the IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, that was created in Bretton Woods in 1947, and as the name says, created to provide finance to countries being reconstructed after the World War II, and also for developing countries. The reconstructed countries, the first clients of the World Bank were France, Japan,
Mm.
uh, and these countries graduated. That is to say, they ceased to be once they were reconstructed and after the golden decade of from 48 to 58, when they reconstructed and they caught up with the US, they ceased to be clients. And so they are what in the jargon of the World Bank, they are called the Part One countries. Whereas the other and well and the IBRD became the institution that providing credits to middle income countries. The bank classifies the countries into three and more categories: low income countries, middle income countries, and high income countries, which roughly correspond to what on the other side of the 19th Street, that is to say, on the IMF side, high income countries are the advanced economies, middle income countries are the emerging market economies on the IMF side, and low income countries at the bank are the developing countries on the other side. Roughly is the same thing. Uh, Nowadays, it has become fashion to try to differentiate the middle income countries into lower middle income countries and upper middle income countries. And the reason, among others, it was, well, this is a long history about it, but it's part of the process of attempts to upgrade the middle income countries. Now, IBRD provides credit to the middle income countries. For the developing countries, that is to say, the low income countries, there is the IDA, the International Development Agency, and which provides, the IDA provides very, very long-term, very much subsidized finance when not grants. Because exactly the IDA provides grants and very much subsidized finance, it has to be replenished periodically, each 3 years. Each 3 years, the donor countries get together and make their pledges of replenishment for the following years, because the money tends to exhaust. Whereas the IBRD, it's a bank. It has a capital, and it uses this capital as to leverage to issue bonds in the markets, and and that's how they get the money to lend. So there is a leverage, and the participation of the countries into the bank, the IBRD, are differentiated, and the part two countries, they're still clients, occasionally take money from the bank, but they also are a smaller part of the capital. The bank, well, I'm talking about bank. The bank, the World Bank Group has also an arm that was created to operate with the private sector, which is IFC, International Financial Corporation. IBRD and IDA operate with the public sectors of the countries, whereas IFC operates with the investors, with companies. And the resource from IBRD and IDA, when applicable, have the guarantees, the primacy as a sovereign creditor with the countries, has a preferential credit treatment. Now, IFC lends to the private sector. There is also an agency, MIGA, Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, that is smaller and it provides insurance against political risks. And so all those comprise the World Bank Group.
Mm-hmm.
The IMF, it is a fund that was created, also in Bretton Woods, which has the function of short-term finance, short-term funding to countries, and it was designed in order to, let's say, to make possible that the countries did not have to resort to capital controls, to defaults under stress conditions, as it was the case in the past prior to the World War II.
Mm.
So it's a short-term credit to bridge times between, let's say, a situation of crisis and normalization. And obviously, the lending by the IMF is given being accompanied by the commitment by the country, by the receiver, to do what it takes to not only pay back the fund, replenish the fund, but also to eliminate the source of the problems that generated the demand for the IMF funds. So IMF is basically is short term, it's emergency, and the size of the volumes of operations are typically much larger than the individual projects approved on the World Bank Group. That doesn't mean that on the World Bank Group there are also conditionalities, particularly sometimes of lending that are a counterpart to policies implemented by the countries. And also because the World Bank, since it has to be paid back, all these institutions, except for IDA, see, the lending, the money transferred has to be, the recipient has to be able ultimately at some moment to pay back. Otherwise, the
Right.
fund would have disappeared, and the bank also would have defaulted, bankrupted. So the bank has to be paid back. But one basically is the bank on the bank side, long-term projects of investment and so on. And on the IMF side is funding for shorter time horizons. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
One important thing to take into account is the following. But in the case of the World Bank Group, I always refer to the World Bank as a hummingbird. Why? Why a hummingbird? You know, hummingbirds, wherever they exist, and that's the case in whole Latin America, but I guess in Europe as well. I'm not sure about Africa, but also in Africa as well, is a bird that pollinizes by exactly taking the pollen from one flower and it brings to other flowers. So it pollinates. And to some extent, the World Bank Group is able to pollinize knowledge. It learns things operating in countries, and it can carry some of these lessons to other developing countries. I This is as much important as the money that comes out of the bank to the countries. And it's this hummingbird function, the World Bank Group, matters dramatically as part of its development mission. Was that helpful?
Yeah.
Yeah.